Hi, Lisa. How are you? Whoops. There you go. I can hear you now, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. I'm gonna just be working until we start.
Do the same thing. I'm skipping
Okay,
here, so.
okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. announced.
public because we kept I mean, this is before COVID, so we were kind of like.
Can you hear me now, Beth?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Jim.
Oh, gotcha. Jim, you need to clean. Jim, you need to clean your viewport. You look a little smudgy.
Or upgrade your computer from 12 years ago.
Using a filter to soften the angles.
Oh, he's walking. He's on the move.
There you are. That looks much better. A quick reminder to everybody that this is being streamed live since we have more than just one trustee here.
Mr. Chairman, how are you doing?
Good. Almost back to normal.
Good.
Good deal. Good news. Laura, do we have everybody?
I think we're missing a couple of people. Well, one person from Mount Air, but we have 2 out of 3, so might be a good starting point.
Okay. Is this a, we call this as a public meeting, correct?
Right.
Correct, Mr. Chairman? Okay. Then I need the chairman to open it, so.
This is being streamed live, just so y'all know.
Then you want me to open it, Chet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is Jim Roper from Perry Township calling to order a special meeting for tonight. Talk about the Scheetz development at the bottom of the hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to, first of all, thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know that we wanted to get with the community group that has addressed this issue and obviously has raised a number of concerns. As many of you may know, Scheetz has originally requested a variance from the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning. That original variance was kicked back to the developer, and they were requested to submit a zoning compliance request. Again, it's my understanding that has been provided to the county, and the county has sent a letter to the developer and indicated that there will be 3 required variances for the project, which is in Sharon Township. And those variances are for setback purposes of 50 feet from right of way on 315, the number of parking spaces, as well as the width of the entrance and exit being proposed for the development. One of the things that the community group, Mr. Chairman, had talked about, and we had talked with them about, was actually putting together a petition to demonstrate in writing the lack of support or opposition to the project from not only Sharon Township, but also Perry Township and surrounding areas. And I believe Becky Andrews took the lead on that verbiage of that petition. And we've had an opportunity to review it. And I'll kind of leave that at that for Andy, as well as Joe Smiley to take from there.
So Becky, thanks again for starting that process. It was really helpful to kind of have somebody be able to put the thoughts on paper so everybody could kind of react to. And then Joe and I sat down yesterday and kind of went through the, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but do you have it?
No.
Okay.
Not in front of us. We'll get it out.
Yeah. So I think as a whole, I think we want to limit it to a page of points, especially if we're going to, one of the things that we got to talk about is, are we going to do this as an online petition signing is the first thing. And then the second thing is, as we kind of look at some of the points that, especially if we're going door to door and want people to look at it, we want to make sure that it's easily concise, readable, and hits the major points that, that we are in opposition about. Obviously traffic. I think another big one, Becky, that you hit on was the businesses that are in that back area, the Goddard School, the businesses where currently the access road they're using as an access road, and now the basically required people to access those businesses would have to drive through the development itself. The bike path, the variances, what they're requesting in terms of the variances along 315. And obviously the aqua, the proximity to the aqua. But, I think we got to focus in on those real high level, those real important, hard hitting and high level problems that we have with this development. I think it was put in the best situation, or it was said best, is that we're not against development. We're against something like this that's an overdevelopment of the site. So.
So I'll jump in real quick. Becky, I really appreciate, as I know Chet and Andy, and I'm sure everybody else, that you took the initiative to generate your petition, etc. What we did last night, and we'll send it out. And obviously, Becky, we're going to send it to you, and you can do. We tried to streamline it. We tried to take feelings out of it. We tried to stick to facts. That's what all these disciplines that are going to hear this are going to look at. So, but without your start, we'd have been way back there. So thank you. And hopefully between Chet and Andy, and when we send this out, we're really going to solicit anybody's input, et cetera. Tried to narrow it down, narrow focus, et cetera. So hopefully we have that out by Monday or Tuesday of next week. So thank you.
Are we planning on doing an online petition?
Can somebody explain that process, like what that would look like an online petition would mean?
Yeah, so there's some sites out there, change.org is one that comes to mind, where you can basically, if you have something that you're lobbying for or against, you can use their site in order to send out things like this. And what it's going to allow, I think the benefit of is, instead of going and hitting everybody door to door, which I still think is an important part of this, is to make people aware. We're able to reach more people than just going door to door. If somebody's not home, and we have the ability to send a link out, and then basically what we would do is upload the final petition language that Joe was just talking about, and then be able to put that link out where then people can log on, sign their name, and then we are able to reach more people than just, again, going door to door. So it's an official document. We can do that, and then it's something that we can get more people involved in it.
I think it's also important because of COVID.
Oh, absolutely. I
too.
think that'd be the primary purpose of doing it online at this point. I don't know that it's a good idea to try to do door to door, but we could do both. But that would be a big concern.
Does it lose effectiveness being online?
Should not.
So
You got valid signatures, valid emails, et cetera. We can. I haven't seen the program, but I gotta assume that you can put in, look, name, address, contact, et cetera, so that they can validate that it's real.
I think in this current climate, that would be more valid. People would understand the risk of doing door to door.
Can I ask a question about the survey? This is my first meeting, so I'm sorry if this is a redundant question, but what is the goal of it? I mean, like, if we get X amount of signatures, is that good enough, or are they just going to go, oh well, thank you very much, but we're still going to put Scheetz here? What, like.
The deal with a variance is there's certain requirements that have to be met in order to be granted a variance.
Okay.
And what we're addressing is the public concern regarding their arguments about why they should get the variance, and our arguments as to why the public doesn't want them to get it.
Okay.
So that's the purpose behind it, and how many people are standing behind it saying, look, we believe that this is the issue. Not we feel, but we believe this is an issue. And if you want to move forward, or anybody wants to move forward in any way, we think these issues have to be addressed.
Okay.
So.
And then sort of a follow-up question. There was an office building there. I'm not familiar with how zoning works, but I thought that in order to be zoned retail, there had to be a change in that. So has that already happened, or is this variance the first step and then they go for a zoning change so that they can put a retail?
No, the zoning is in place. If they were able to meet all the requirements of the code, they would not be going before the county for any of this.
So
The
when
reason
did
they're going
that?
before the county is they need a variance For the
Right.
building setback is requirement under the current zoning is 50 feet. They're asking for a variance to 10. I,
Yeah,
for
the-
one, do not understand the parking variance.
Yeah,
It
The
does
zoning
not
hasn't-
appear,
So but let me get back to that question. Laura, I think you started to answer it.
Yeah.
So the zoning has not changed, meaning was it always
yes. If it's
retail
mixed-
zoned?
Mixed use, it
Mixed
covers all of that. So
Okay,
that doesn't have to change, but the variance would have to be granted.
okay, so
To produce the setback.
okay, so even though
Yeah.
there was an office building there, at any time in the past, they could have torn it down and put in a
Yeah.
retail, okay.
Lisa, I think it was 2017 is when the zoning changed to exceptional use, which is used for a gas station moving forward. I think
Oh,
that's
back in 2017, it changed.
so well
Yes,
before.
I believe that Tony is correct. What they did was they went back in when they were looking at the senior housing, the shopping center and everything else, and they rezoned the entire project. At that point, they requested and got the right to be able to put several uses out on this pad. That was the office building.
No, that's too bad. Okay. Well, can't change it
And
now.
that's a good point, because one of the things that I think as a group, we need to make sure that we're in agreement is, or maybe not in agreement, but basically this property is going to develop.
Yes.
I mean, and I think what we have to say is we aren't anti-development. We want it to develop. We want it. We don't want to just see an empty lot. It's good for us. But the use that they're proposing, the Scheetz and the things that they're asking for just do not fit that site.
Right.
So I think what we need to, basically say as a group is, we're not saying, hey, I don't care what you put in there, we're going to fight it, but that's what we have to do. And to be honest with you, that's probably the reason why they rezoned it to exceptional use, to give them the flexibility to find uses in there. It's just the use that they're presenting to us is overdevelopment and not the right development.
Right. And I think a couple of the business owners that I've talked to in the community have said, they feel that this is in part to push out some of the existing businesses that, anyway, so there's a better use for it without the duplication that we're concerned about.
Yeah.
So if they do an online petition, is there a way that you can control it so it only goes to people in the area? Or will it go out into the world where people who love Scheetz are going to be in there commenting or changing the results?
Yeah, I think being able to identify the people that we are going to send it to, like, for example, Perry Township, we have, because we have an opt-in system, we have a fairly good amount of emails within Worthington Hills.
Okay, so you can do it by email. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But that doesn't say that somebody can't forward that link to
Right.
somebody, and then that's what you're getting at. So the answer is, initially, I think we can send it to those that would be impacted, but I think it still doesn't say that you can't send it, that link couldn't be forwarded to somebody else. And you will have people that say, hey, I want to see a Scheetz down there, but that's.
If you look at their social media, Scheetz is almost cult-like in this followers. People love Scheetz, especially young people, and they have all kinds of gimmicks on their social media, and yeah, you're gonna have people say this is
of the online petition. I've dealt with some of those before. This is Michelle Elliott with Perry Township. And it's not where they can vote against it. You're looking for folks to sign on in support of your petition. So if they don't agree with it, they can't change the petition.
Okay.
They can start their own petition, though.
Well, they could, you're right.
Yeah.
But typically they would just ignore it.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's enough locations going in across Columbus that will get supported, and we're not against Scheetz. It's just that particular location that's the issue. So if we can
Yeah.
specify that, that should hopefully take care of it.
Does the petition need to actually mention Scheetz? Isn't the core issue that it's a gas station? I mean, the fact that it's Scheetz or any other brand wouldn't actually be relevant to.
I think it's relative to mention that it's Scheetz, and we can reference the development plan that they've submitted to Franklin County.
Yeah.
So for me to clarify, is the issue that this is the wrong kind of gas station, or is the issue that this is a gas station?
I think the location isn't appropriate for any gas station, given we already have two.
It's not just a gas station. It's a huge travel center.
And
Right,
one
so-
tracks traffic off the freeway
Right.
that will
But
force
it
it
doesn't
to
matter if
go.
it's Scheetz or not.
No, not at all.
And you're right, Matt. I mean, I think if the concern is that folks that are supportive of the Scheetz brand or concept, would be less likely to support, you're right. The focus is that the scope and scale and the duplication of having multiple similar businesses is probably the challenge.
Yeah.
And aren't all Scheetz 24 hours too?
Yes.
Yes.
I think
And
that's a big factor as well.
I would also like to know how many of the 600 Scheetz locations have a house directly across from a 2-lane road. I just can't imagine that is something that they desire, because that's what it is right there. There's houses right across the 2-lane road.
Well, I would caution the fact that they are primarily out of Pennsylvania, and the road system in Pennsylvania lends itself to what we call 3-digit roads, such as 315 and that. And I know for a fact that there are several Scheetz locations that are across from houses, and understand that if they didn't need a variance, they would be allowed by right on this property. The difference is they're asking for a variance from 50 feet to 10 feet to back it up to 315. It's what we're saying is that it appears to be an overburden of the site. Aqua has come out with a very strong letter. I hope all of you have seen it.
That's a good.
Indicating that they do not want it there, and that is an issue. We've got a unique situation because we've got the Olentangy River, we've got the bike trails, we've got a traffic signal that serves 1,100 home community. So it's not just that a house is across the street, it's the combination of all of these facts.
And the scenic byway that it would force traffic directly north. I mean, if they come in off the freeway, they've got nowhere to go but north.
Right. And that's another important point, Laura, that you brought up. With what they're proposing, there's an existing right-in, right-out back for those businesses, and then they're proposing another right-in, right-out. So if I'm a parent that, first off, which I did have kids that went to the Goddard School at one point, the main access to that point, and there's a majority of the kids that go to that school that live in the hills. You come down the hill, you cross, you've got to now go through the Scheetz parking lot to access Goddard. Then once I drop my kids off, and if I work downtown, I have to go north on 315, find a way to cross over on Highview or some other to come back down south. The other thing that I think is problematic with the plan from a traffic standpoint is what you're going to find is people are going to, they can't turn left if they do decide to go. They can't turn left on 315 because of that light and the backup. So what they'll end up doing is they'll going into Worthington Hills, up the hill, find a crossover, come back down so I can go right. It is just going to, I always say traffic is lazy. Traffic will find the easiest path, and that's usually not what we want, and it just creates a problem with everything else. So but Joe's right. I mean, that's the thing that we have to realize as a group is if they weren't asking for this variance, if it was a gas station and they weren't asking for a variance, they could go in there. So
Right.
to say, hey, we got 2 gas stations, there's going to be a third,
Irrelevant.
it's irrelevant.
Right.
What we're saying is we want that it's overdevelopment.
The granting of this variance allows a use in there that was going to be overburdening the existing infrastructure, affecting the area from a safety standpoint, traffic standpoint, potential danger of water, et cetera. And there's a reason that the 50-foot setback was put in place to begin with. So what is the logical reason as to why you would grant a 80% reduction in that to allow this use in?
Am I correct that you have to have that 50-foot setback reduced so you could get the tanks in compliance in terms of distance from a water source?
No, Jim, I think it's more that the fact of the matter is the canopy is considered a building as well as the building is considered a building. So
okay.
Regardless of how they turned it, they're going to require a variance.
Right.
Does that include the turn lane too? So they want to put a turn lane there, right? Is that fall on that variance as well? 15 north, they would have a little bit of a.
I thought there was something, and I kept reading that there was something in the variance because of that. This right in, right out.
The right in, right out is too wide. And I can assure you right now that whether it's too wide or it's not, now that could affect their truck turning radius, which we don't have.
Right.
And so that may be why it's this wide. But if that's the case, they simply will end up driving over the curb if they don't get that variance.
Right. And the Worthington Fire Chief is looking into, turn radius and things that they would need for their safety equipment. And Mr. Overly has reached out to ODOT to do a traffic study because my understanding is has not been done yet. And that's another pretty big concern. So.
So in regards to the petition, Laura, do you want to work with Becky and the group in regards to,
Sure.
after Joe and Andy send back their comments to you, and you guys kind of refine it from there? It needs to be comprehensive but concise at the same time.
We can try to get it close to 1 page. Are we going to do a separate one for the non-aqua businesses? Because I know I've heard from at least 3 of the businesses in that area. And obviously they would have a little bit of a slightly different perspective, but should we do a separate one from them as well?
Well, the county BZA likes to see letters from businesses on their letterhead.
Okay.
So because they are so unique, different types of businesses, different operational considerations and needs. Obviously, you're really only going to get most likely non-continental based companies. So
Goddard, Source, and Swan are the 3. Becky, I think you have a connection to Swan or Goddard. I've talked to Home Source and Swan as well. So I could get separate letters from all 3 of them. If there's another entity in there that you would think would be helpful. I haven't heard from there's a Vision Care place and a PT place in there, Nova Care. I don't know if they have a position on this at all, if anyone knows them.
well, obviously, I think you can get something from the gas stations.
Oh,
So-
sure.
Oh, yeah.
What about the restaurants?
Well, you've got a double-edged sword here. The tenants of the shopping center are the tenants of the shopping center. The owner of the shopping center is trying to put the Scheetz there.
And they're trying to work out lease agreements and everything. So it's a little
Right,
bit,
et cetera.
We're not
So
going to
they're-
put them in that position.
but
Right.
US Bank, Marathon, and BP are independent. So
Yes, they are.
Cool.
So I do think, going back to the petition though, I think that part of the email that goes out, I think there should be a printable version in a PDF form of the petition. along with a signature line with their address and that, and then an address to the BZA as to where they can mail it.
Is there a timeline, a deadline that we want to put on there so that we can get it timely?
I think we asked Chet to actually use his connections to find out the actual potential date of the hearing. And then what is the drop dead date so that people know it.
Okay.
Right. So Laura, I have a call with staff tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll find out exactly where they are status wise, what they've communicated with the developer most recently, what they're seeing as the issues, what they see as a schedule. And obviously the BZA meets on a regular, the same day of the month, just like ours does. And there is a cutoff period for the developer, the applicant, to submit something. Now, for us, it's a little bit different. We're not submitting a request. Obviously, you can go in and you can testify before the BZA. I'll make sure that staff provides a written guidelines as to their speaking policy, so that everybody clearly understands that. We're not going to want everyone to speak. So that's why it is important that we get letters from businesses, that we reach out to public safety, which we have, in that they weigh in either personally or in writing, that we get the petition, but we will have to have some folks go down and testify in regards to this case. But we're not going to take an army down there. We're going to take a select group of Navy SEALs, so to speak. So
one other idea might be that we allow when we do the PDF of the printable petition, is to also give the addresses of the county commissioners. And I don't think it's ever too early, because the appeal will go to the county commissioners if they decide to pursue it. And all of a sudden, county commissioners start receiving letters about something that's not even on their desk, will raise their attention.
that's an excellent point. We can, please understand the members of the BZA are all township officials. And they're all good folks. But Joe is right. If the BZA does turn this down, the applicant does have the right of appeal through a process, and the first process would be to the county commissioners of Franklin County. And so they need to begin to understand there is an issue and what that issue is, and that there is opposition to it. The earlier, the better.
Mr. Oberly said in the township meeting, Sharon Township meeting last night, that it sounded like the property was in contract. Does anyone know for sure if that's the case, and if it's with Skilkin or Scheetz?
Joe?
It is under contract by everything that we've heard. To file a variance, et cetera, nobody would do that without having control of the property. So it wouldn't be very intelligent to do that. And somebody on the property owner's side had to sign that variance request. So they're only going to do that if somebody is under contract, in my opinion. Not saying it's not possible, but.
And from the variance request that I read, I mean, obviously the contingencies would give them an out, and the biggest one for them was a setback. So it seemed to me that that was one of the biggest issues that would cause them to not want to pursue the purchase of the property if they did not receive it, right?
I don't believe that without a variance to the setback for their canopy or the building, that they are able to lay it out in a fashion that would allow the accessibility and the movement of truck deliveries, everything else. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but again, I think they'd have significant issues, and it's a big investment. What they're planning on here is a huge investment.
Right.
This is not an inexpensive development. So,
And they have a number of locations going in, so I would hope that
least
if we could attack that, they might look elsewhere.
yes.
would be the goal.
Can I just chime in really quick? I noticed while reading through the application and looking at the answers that whoever filled out the application, they wrote. I don't know who did it, but basically one of the things that you really have to look at is if rights are being denied if you don't grant the variance. So that is like question number 4. So if you look here, it says, does the applicant have any special privilege that is denied by the zoning resolution? So Scheetz would have 6 double-sided pumps. The other 2 gas stations only have like 4 or 5. So by granting them the variance, you actually are giving them privilege over the other area businesses. So I think that needs to be addressed because we haven't even talked about that yet.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Now, this is again, my opinion. Their arguments to all the questions and the reasons for the variance, in my opinion, are very, very weak. And those are what need to be addressed because they're weak. And I think that's what we're going to do between the petition and the people that are going to go down and argue before it. So, but that's a good point, Becky.
Is it known that any of the other gas stations had ever gotten a similar variance when they were put in?
I do not believe they have. They have been in there for a long time. There's the one gas station, I believe it's the Marathon, violates the 50-foot setback. And that I can find, there's no record as to why they violate it, other than it may not have been in effect at the time that they were constructed. But they constructed very early on when all of Worthington Hills was being developed. So, and it's their canopy.
Yeah,
So.
it's a little concerning though, because they may say, well, there's already a gas station that's, 10 feet or whatever.
That's one, and it's over 50 years,
Right.
I say it was 84, something like that.
Yeah, I understand, but we should just, I think, be prepared for that, because if there's one, then why, they may say, well, we're being discriminated against because you've already got one that's against the rule.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so one bad decision doesn't precipitate a second.
Oh, I know.
So,
just playing devil's advocate.
So Mr. English has offered to create some aerial and some drawings to indicate the setback of all the businesses along there and the distances that they have. So we'll have that created.
Has anyone reached out to the bike path, Metro Parks, or whoever is going to be managing the bike path?
Laura, that was on me. I did put a call into the director. We played phone tag a little bit at the beginning of the week. So it's on me right now to call him back.
Okay. And we have ODNR and Flo kind of in the process as well.
Heather's on the phone here. She's from ODNR.
Hi, Heather.
Yeah, Heather, you want to explain what DNR can and cannot do?
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Heather Doherty. I'm with the Scenic River program at ODNR. So the Olentangy River is obviously a state scenic river. So I really appreciate the interest of this community in protecting that river. That's really outstanding. So I know there's lots of other issues to consider here with this project, but certainly the river is one of them. So as a scenic river, our program has in the ORC, the part of the ORC that defines our program, we have review authority over publicly funded projects that occur within 1,000 feet of the scenic river. So if ODOT works on 315, we review their plans and try to negotiate with them to reduce environmental impact. And we're doing that right now up the road from this site. We do not have jurisdiction over privately funded projects such as this one. However, so what we do does not affect, our program does not affect private property rights, period. We can submit recommendations or comments that are non-binding. And I think the process for doing that is oftentimes projects like this get routed for departmental review through the entire department, not just the Scenic Rivers program, which is one little component of it. And I believe our department is initiating that now based on the location and the interest of this project. So that would give us an opportunity. That would be the method in which we would typically weigh in. And so I'll share with you the two things that I looked at, like when we're reviewing this project in terms of potential for environmental issues is the project in the 100-year floodplain. And we also look at groundwater pollution potential mapping. There's mapping called DRASTIC. I don't know what that stands for. It's fancy geology and hydrology that I don't fully grasp. The project is not in the 100-year floodplain. I think the 100-year floodplain is not far away, but so that is good news. I think the backside of the Hills development is in the 100-year floodplain, but that side is not. In terms of the DRASTIC mapping, and again, this is for groundwater pollution potential. Should there be an issue there, it's in the medium-high range is what I found. So I'm happy to share those bits of information with anybody who wants them. That's all publicly available info. So I'm happy to email anybody that info, but that's the type of stuff we would be looking at when making a recommendation.
That would be helpful, not just for Aqua, but the Mount Air Improvement Corporation, I believe, taps into the same aquifer that Aqua does, so services the Mount Air community currently. Until we're on the Delco water system, we are equally vulnerable to any groundwater contamination.
Right. And it's also, the reason it's a risk for the river is because groundwater and surface water have a lot of interaction. It depends on the river system, but water comes up from groundwater into surface water and vice versa. Surface water can percolate down into groundwater. So the river and the aquifer, are connected. So that's, I mean, obviously drinking water is a big issue, but that's from a river conservation standpoint, that would be the biggest interest.
So Heather, can we expect a letter with comments from you all?
The letter, so what will happen is I've been talking with we have a real estate division at ODNR. They will initiate this environmental review. It'll get routed to every division at ODNR that has a stake in this project. There might not be any beyond Scenic Rivers. We will submit comments, and then those comments will get forwarded back to the applicant. I don't know how they get shared with you. I can ask that question. So it's not really it's not a letter per se, as much as, comments to the applicant about the project. But
Well, I gotta believe that if they're items going back to the applicant, at that point, they're public information, and we would request that we get a copy of them.
Yeah. And I think we could get a letter from the Mount Air Improvement Corporation fairly easily. And Lisa, I don't know, did you get a chance to reach out to Flo? You're on mute, Lisa. There you go.
Sorry. They have a board meeting tonight. And so they're going to get back to us tomorrow or early next week. So their next board meeting was tonight.
Perfect. So if we have a deadline in terms of getting letters pulled together, I think we've got people who can connect to the right resources. And I'm happy to go visit NovaCare or the Vision Place. And Becky, if you want to reach out to Goddard, I've already connected with Home Source and the Swan Cleaners people. So I think we can get a number of business letters as well.
Hey,
Laura,
hey, Becky.
Oh, good.
Oh, sorry, Chet. I just on Chet real quick. Hey, Becky, I've already talked to Sam Elliott, so she is fully aware of this. I've been sharing stuff with her, but if you want to take the lead on, you probably see her every day. Maybe not. I don't know, but and then there's also another business, Chorniak and Associates. Sam gave me Joe's name. He's the building next to her, so I got to reach out to him to kind of fill him in and see if we can get a letter from him as well.
Okay, great.
Laura, I mentioned this earlier to Andy, and we talked last night with Chet and Ed. We're doing a tremendous amount of work, and it's all absolutely worthwhile. I think it might make sense for you or one of the trustees from Sharon Township to reach out to the developer and ask them if they are aware of the opposition currently in place and what's going on, and if they are planning on pursuing this direction, and to get some kind of response in writing. Because if they understand, I think it's fair to let them know what they're facing, and they may decide, this isn't someplace we want to go, and we get it in writing, and we can all, move on with our COVID lives.
Very good. I know Mr. Oberly has been in touch. He's been our main point of contact, working through several issues with the development in general. So I know he's had that conversation within the last couple of weeks. We're obviously working on a JED and TIFs and things that have not been approved or agreed upon yet. So we have a little bit of time to work through some of that. But we've been in touch. They're aware. I know they've reached out to some of the Worthington Hills people on the Facebook page. So I think the developers are more than aware that there's a lot of opposition.
I would just say, being a developer myself, we tend to be a little dense. So sometimes it's a point blank question. We would like to know if you're pursuing it as of this date so that we know what direction you're going.
Yes.
So can I ask another?
What day do the businesses need to have their letters written by?
Good question. We'll put out a date after my conversation with staff tomorrow. If it's going to be, if the BZA is going to entertain this case in August, obviously it'll be a different date than if it was in September. So it may be, we may need those letters as early as the end of next week.
Yeah. And Chad, I don't know what time your meeting is, but is it possible I could pipe into that too, or is that too many people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll get, how about after this call, we'll get together, we'll make sure, we'll talk about it. So
okay.
Make sure it's on your schedule. So.
Okay, thanks.
And I need to talk to you about Swan as well, Laura. So
okay.
I'll touch base with you offline on that too.
Okay.
So could we get some? Oh, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Nope, I can get a letter from Tracy at Marathon. That's all I was going to say. I'm pretty good friends with her, so go ahead, Erin. Sorry.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so I think a lot of residents are kind of wondering how they can help, what they can do. So if we get questions from residents around steps that, how they can get involved, what is the best advice from the township's perspective in terms of, I heard printing up a printable version of the petition, sharing that with folks so that they can get it mailed in, potentially starting to send letters to the county commissioners. Like, what are some actionable things that residents can start doing sooner rather than later? Because I'm getting a lot of comments from my neighbors and they're chomping at the bit to help.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that big companies don't like press, et cetera. So we seem to be fascinated with yard signs right now.
I was gonna say yard signs.
Yard signs would definitely be an opportunity to express the, number one, make everyone aware that may not be aware, and start asking questions. So I think that's one.
Is that something that Marathon and BP could do on the business side to try to put something out there to prevent unnecessary competition? Or
I don't think that would be very smart from a standpoint, because the idea would be, well, of course you don't want me, I'm a competitor. And that
Right.
argument carries no weight.
Okay.
Tracy is very, she's doing a balancing act because she cannot get involved to a high degree in local politics. Otherwise Marathon could pull their sign. She did tell me that. So she's happy to support it, put her name down, but I don't think she can get that involved.
So Joe, this is, I mean, if we do yard sign, or if the group does yard signs, that is a community-based and driven initiative.
Yes, that's my recommendation. I don't think that any of us, we're looking at it from the standpoint of economic development, impact to the housing values, the other businesses in the area. Those are our concerns. The neighbors, et cetera, I think are looking at it from those standpoints, plus what it is they want and don't want in their neighborhood. So.
Right.
So I'm not hearing that we should be directing them to send letters at this point, or we should?
No,
And
I think any letter writing is great. Go for it. But as I've said this before, that's the reason we're trying to put the petition together, et cetera, is when you're dealing with zoning and rights and property rights and everything else, it's not about how you feel. It's about facts.
Yeah.
It's about safety. It's about traffic congestion. It's about all those things, but it's about facts. And that's the issue that gets a lot of people in trouble, is they go in, I feel. That doesn't carry any weight. That's wasted. So you really want to hit the facts. Why is it that this is a bad development and a bad decision to grant these variances?
So is that primarily geared toward the BZA, or is that toward the Franklin County commissioners, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
So if someone's going to write a letter, they should write to both?
Right to
Yes.
both, okay.
We will get you names and addresses of both groups,
Thank you.
which you are more than willing to share. They are all public officials. They may not be, the BZA members may not be used to receiving letters to the extent that we would hope that we would get to them. And let's make sure that we are professional and polite in our letters and correspondence to them. As Joe said, and as Andy has said, this is a fact-based world that we need to operate within. And so emotions don't carry weight. It's about facts. And that's what they will be more receptive to.
Right. And I'll see what the timing is on the ODOT traffic study, because I think that would come into play. And I know that Chief Zambini is working on some things for the fire department. And then our two police chiefs are concerned about being able to cover it in terms of the 24/7. So we'll get some letters from them as well with some of their concerns.
I have a question about that traffic study. Is that something that ODOT just does as a matter of course, or is there, I mean, do they?
Well, they hadn't been asked to do one until we asked them to. So I'm not sure when they would have been engaged, but until Sharon Township reached out after finding out that this project was maybe going forward, they weren't even involved. They weren't even aware.
And so tax money pays for them to do that, I take it. I mean, if we were to require it before the variance could be approved, would that be something that Scheetz would have to pay for, or?
Yes, the answer to that was with the idea of a variance, everything is on the table. So if there are concerns, et cetera, that are expressed when somebody's contemplating granting that, they can request items such as that. and they can request additional items be done in the granting of the variance and why it would be granted. They can put conditions on that. So yes, they can. If ODOT's doing the traffic study, that's great. I don't know to what extent they're going to do it, et cetera. But it's definitely needs to be done. But you have to understand, the traffic study could come back and say that it's operating at a level D or a level C, and then it's allowed. So in these situations, you don't, that's not our only issue.
Right.
So you don't hang your hat on just one, but it's a good question. And yes, they can require the applicant to go get it. But it sounds like ODOT's going to perform it, or at least ask some questions of their internal folks.
I see. Okay.
I have one follow-up question. I put it in the comments there, the chat, or to what Ms. Doherty was talking about. What can Aqua do, if anything, besides comment? I wonder if, because they're a public utility to a degree, I wonder if they have a little bit more authority, just considering that their current surveys of their own water system, it's already considered high risk based on their own kind of quality surveys. Has anybody, I know they've been in touch, but can they do like legally to help us out, if anything?
Yes. So Tony, the answer to that question is that it is being reviewed at corporate, and their legal staff is involved in that conversation. They are a company. They're going to have to make a decision to get more involved in the letter or not.
Okay.
Is that something, Chet, that could be expanded to the Ohio EPA, just given that they have jurisdiction over both, our water systems that tap the same aquifer?
I can't talk about that.
Okay. Is there someone I can ask?
I can get you to somebody. Yeah.
That would be great, because that might have a little more teeth.
Follow-up question to that is, if this is kind of a business strategy that they are considering, how would it impact their decision if we have 1,200 homeowners writing letters to Aqua Corporate? I know we don't want to do it necessarily to Aqua Ohio because they're probably very much on board, but Essential Utility Company is probably the one calling the shots here. Should we put a campaign together to get letters on their desks, or would that not be?
Yeah, that's probably not a wise move. They will, I believe that they have enough incentive to get engaged on our side of the equation. I don't want to, excuse my language to those on the call, I don't want to piss them off.
Yeah.
They know the circumstances surrounding this proposed development. I think we will lean on our relationships that we have built over time with them, to encourage them to go beyond the corporate statement. And they are very much a linchpin in this whole thing. I mean, there's not many times you have a BZA case where the local governments are engaged with residents, and you have businesses engaged, and you have safety services engaged, and a utility. So it's a good combination. We're hopeful that the developer sees the concerns about this particular site. So please don't bombard them.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
So from a messaging standpoint, we've got the Worthington Hills page that has quite a few residents on it. We've got the Mount Air Facebook page. We've got the next door. And all of us know people in our communities that would be willing to write letters. All of you as our resident representatives,
Laura, I can't hear you.
We lost her.
Am I back on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Back up
my phone
about-
is ringing. Some spam caller. I'm just saying, you know, we've got these different messaging sources through social media to get the word out to request letters. So if we can have our resident representatives, I know Tony, you're active on the Worthington Hills page. Lisa, you're on the Mount Air page and the next door page. If you guys can get the word out as to the deadline, letters, maybe some talking points, and make sure that people are aware of the petition that's available either online or in person. It sounds like that's a starting point. Do we have the petition nailed down, or do we need to talk about that a little further tonight?
I would suggest that we get, because Becky's the author of it, like Joe had said, we'll have our comments to Becky. So Becky, if you wouldn't mind being sort of the keeper of the keys of the petition, and then I think we circulate it, make sure that we get it pinned down. But I would say by first of next week, middle of next week, we're ready to go with it. And then the website change.org would be probably the one we'd want to go with. So if somebody wants to look at being the author of that or setting up our petition, or at least getting familiar while we're pinning down the petition language, then we're ready to go. As soon as that petition language is done, we can get it up and running.
Jean, is
Tony?
that something you'd want to take on, or?
Somebody?
I'm gonna have surgery Tuesday, so I don't want to
Oh,
take
my.
up on too much right now.
Okay. All right.
Tony?
Did we ever volunteer on the change.org?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do it. Once we get the petition finalized, I'll go create the account,
Okay.
get it running, make sure it's meeting all the criteria that everybody laid out.
And
Okay.
I'm happy to post like the letter writing information or share the letter writing information, and also be sure to encourage fact-based opposition. Chet,
Excellent.
I heard you.
And then Chet and I can work on the business perspective on that maybe, and get something similar going on the business side of things.
Laura, would you mind emailing Aaron and myself the addresses for the BZA and
Yep.
the county commissioners?
Yeah, Chet and I will get that together for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
If we have feedback for the petition, should we maybe send it to you, Laura, and then you can get it to Becky, or?
That's fine. Or if I don't know if you have Becky's information in the email I forwarded
Oh,
to you, but you're welcome
okay.
to send it to her and copy us on it. And,
Oh, right, I forgot, I
Yeah.
do.
yeah.
Okay.
This sounds like a great plan. I mean, we've got a lot of great engagement around this. I'm excited about it. And I haven't heard a lot of people in support of it who don't live in the area. The people on next door that seem to be supporting it are not directly in the neighborhood and don't really understand the impact. So, you know, if they want to put it up on 23, I would probably go there and be a customer, but you know, location is everything.
23 would be a very appropriate spot for it.
Yeah.
Laura, is there anything else?
I don't have anything unless our resident folks do. I know the third Mount Air person he liked the language in the petition that we circulated already. So I'll find out if he has any more feedback and make sure he's copied it on everything. And there's another resident in Mount Air who used to manage a Scheetz, and she wanted to be involved, but she wasn't able to contact us tonight. So I will also encourage her to be involved because she might have some inside information.
Is she one who supports Scheetz?
She's not in support. She's not in support of it here. Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know there's
Becky-
someone in Mount Air who is.
Oh, no. Well, that's surprising.
Becky,
Yeah.
when you get our comments, understand that there's no private authorship there. So you feel free to dive in and whatever. Okay.
Yep.
And Lisa and I were talking about, is there a better way than email that we can share documents?
Yeah, like, can we utilize Google Share for some of this, just to put, like, Jeannie's done some great research on just Scheetz and where the other locations are going in Columbus, maybe just
Yeah.
nice to know stuff. And
If someone wants to set up a Google Docs account, I mean, I've got the variance request, the electronic version where you can zoom in and look at all kinds of stuff. It's got more than just sheets. It's got everything that went up for that particular month. But I mean, I'm happy to drop stuff in. I don't know if
Okay.
someone wants to take ownership of that. I don't want to be responsible for it because
Right.
that's probably not good for my role. But you know, if somebody else wants to do it, I'll drop stuff in.
Okay, well, maybe I
Yeah,
can
so
talk.
whenever we find stuff, just put it in there so we
Yeah.
can all take a look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can take that on.
Okay.
Something out.
Very good. And I'll forward it on to the Hills people and folks if you don't have their email addresses.
I'll be glad to write a letter to the editor if you want.
Oh, you're good at
Those
that.
are always good.
You know what? I forgot. 10 TV reached out to me. Check. I'm not sure what the appropriate time would be if we wait closer to the BZA. Maybe even we wait till it goes to county commissioners if we have good thoughts about the BZA's response to this. But I'm going to keep that in my back pocket and somebody just tell me when I should be back out and re-engage.
Yeah. Well, I think what's nice, the position gives us good talking points that are consistent. So no matter who talks to the media, I think that's the place to start.
My recommendation would be when the petition gets finalized, that's the perfect time to reach out to Channel 10.
Yep.
Thank you. That's the guidance I was looking for. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay,
We got a
Laura,
great team.
anything else, Laura?
I don't have anything. I'm excited.
Okay. Super. Well, I know my chairman likes to keep meetings on time. So, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to close this meeting, we can all get on to our other COVID lives, I guess.
Well, I think that was actually, I just kind of sat back and listened and made a bunch of notes. I think this is incredibly well organized, and it's unique that we have all these various groups working together. So I think we got a pretty good plan going forward. I'm glad to be a part of it. So I have to call, I guess, move to end, since this is a public meeting for Perry Township, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting for Perry Township purposes.
Second.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes. And anybody else can stay on, obviously, but the Perry Township, one Perry Township person can from now on.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for
Thank
allowing us to
you.
talk. Appreciate it.